What's going on, fellow A-pluses? It's your boy, Adam Perez. We're back once again with a brand new episode review as we're set to tackle Creature Commandos, baby. We're going to go ahead and give you our review for episodes 1 and 2 that wind up dropping together last Thursday. Wanted to go ahead and drop this before episode 3 wind up dropping this week also. But looking forward, we plan on dropping our episode reviews on Saturday for you. If anything, give me some time to watch the episodes Thursday and Friday, and may record Friday night and have reviews up for you guys on Saturday. So certainly look forward to more Creature Commandos. But really, this is sort of our appetizer course, getting into the introduction to James Gunn's DCU. They even do name drop the Suicide Squad movie. And James Gunn, in some of his interviews, has said, look, whatever movies we name drop or moments from the DCEU that we might name drop, whether that be in animated films, animated series, television series, movies, if we mention it, it technically is canonical to our DCU. And they talked about Operation or Project Starfish, which what's happened over in Suicide Squad. So they're definitely connecting the Suicide Squad movie to the overall DCU in here, as well as we get to see Amanda Waller along with Rick Flag sort of mentioning the events of what happened in that particular movie as well. So, not to be too confusing, if you will, I still expect the DCU to be fully its own thing, but if anything in the past does get mentioned, it will in fact be canonical to the DCU, certainly going forward. So I'm looking forward to reviewing the show with you guys. I've been really eager to see how the DCU is going to turn out when it comes to the mind of James Gunn, and I'm personally really excited for it, guys. So let's go ahead and just dive into our episodes 1 and 2 review. I'm just going to talk about them certainly as a whole, and then as we get each individual episode going forward, we'll definitely focus a little bit more on them individually. But I gotta say, one of the things, if I had any cons about this, I think one of the things that did throw me off was just how quickly we're sort of thrusted into things. When this episode starts, boom, it's like we're right there in Argus, introduced to both of these characters, and Waller and Rick Flag have a news report talking about their mascara, talking about the villain already, and Cersei, and the idea of the sons of Themyscira that are pretty much just a bunch of dude bros that feel some type of way about Themyscira being an island of females only, referring to it as sexist, if you will, and just complaining about how woke it is, right? So James Gunn immediately out of the gate sort of takes shots at dude bros that are a little bit misogynistic, if you will. And so but it also thrusts you into like what the political situation is certainly like, how things have changed for Amanda Waller and her having to sort of eliminate Task Force X because of some of the things that the government's coming down, and the introduction to Task Force M. It just felt like it just threw you into a series, almost like it literally picked up from a previous episode that you might have missed. And I found myself literally within like the first 2 minutes having to be like, hold on, and like literally rewinding it just to make sure I was digesting the information correctly and understanding sort of the situation that this world has certainly found itself in. And so, but once we get past sort of like I think we've seen this clip before the movie, the series even came out, of Amanda Waller and Rick Flag talking about the individual characters and who's going to be on their team and whatever the case may be. We've seen that before. So literally the 5 minutes I feel like we had seen previously, and then we get right into what I think is a really great theme song and intro for the show itself before we finally start getting into the actual belly of the episode. So I think for me it started off just really abrupt, with a lot of information, and I wish that they sort of took their time in introducing us to this world a little bit, because literally within the 5 minutes, these characters are literally thrusted together. There's no like warm up period, there's no opportunity to sit down with each individual character, see how Rick Flag does with them. It's like, no, you're on a mission, these characters are with you, good luck sort of thing. And so it just felt like it started way too fast for me. I would have loved a little bit of a slower burn. But once this episode starts going, then I do feel like it starts slowing down a little bit. And I'm a little bit more on board with it. I will definitely say I certainly enjoyed episode 2 a little bit more than I did episode 1. I got tired a little bit, especially in episode 1, once they actually get to the castle itself and the princess that they're certainly going to go ahead and protect. You know, her bodyguard and her guards with the old sort of pop culture references got really tired really quickly, if I could be honest with you. In the what's up sort of thing, like it got a little bit tiring really quickly. But once we actually start settling down and the team starts to eat, and Rick Flags talking to the princess, and you get the opportunity to start seeing the other characters interact, like for me that's really when the show picks up in a great way. I really enjoy Frank Grillo as Rick Flag. I am eager to kind of see what he's going to do in the movie itself for Superman, because I believe he's in Superman and he's also in Peacemaker season 2. So Frank Grillo as Rick Flag Sr. certainly has a significant impact in the DCU to certainly kick things off. But I thought from a voice acting perspective, I thought he did really good. I love how he embodies Rick Flag Sr. in here, especially put into the several situations that we see him in, being flirted with by the princess and him trying to really keep it together. His fight sequence with Dr. Phosphorus I thought was incredible. I love the opportunity that they see that he's not invincible, that he literally puts himself in harm's way or can be hurt, just some of the radiation burns that he winds up getting from Dr. Phosphorus. But it does show that these characters certainly don't all necessarily get along, but I appreciate Rick Flag's ability to try and at least allow them to get along, like literally yelling at Dr. Phosphorus, like, look man, like I want this to work, right? Like we're supposed to be on a team. I don't want to have to push this button, dude, but if you're gonna make me push it, I definitely will push it. So it is sort of like an aspect of humanity that I think the Creature Commandos are not used to in Rick Flag, and I hope that certainly grows in the sense of level of trust behind who Rick Flag certainly is. And maybe that's something that Dr. Phosphorus has earned a little or learned about a little bit after episode 1. Who knows if he tries to kill Rick Flag again. But I just thought it was a great fight sequence, but really interesting sort of moment between Dr. Phosphorus and Rick Flag in here. Also I will say, while I know the series is kind of rated mature, the idea that, look, there's going to be violence, there's going to be sex, it is one of those things where I felt like, man, are they introducing sex a little bit too soon? Like, we're literally within the first 2 episodes, and she's already stripped her ass butt naked in the first episode, and they're literally doing it. I mean, look, to be honest, the way that they're drawing this princess with all the curves that she has, I don't blame Rick Flag. But there is a part of me that's thinking, like, can we like take baby steps into this at least? You know what I'm saying? We got moaning going on in the second episode sort of thing. I'm like trying to watch this around my girlfriend and stuff, and I'm like, I don't know if I should be embarrassed or not. Like, should I bring this volume down a little bit, because they're moaning kind of loud right now. So I wouldn't have minded little baby steps into it. But look, they definitely are not holding anything back. And when it comes to James Gunn in this world, I certainly don't want them to. I want them to take the creative risks that they feel is certainly appropriate. But I do wonder if there's like a twist coming no pun intended, when it comes to the princess and Rick Flag, because it just felt a little bit too rushed, and maybe there's a particular reason for that. So we'll see. I'll let this series certainly breathe for itself. But I'm really enjoying the characters in here so far, man. I think everybody has a trait that I've seen so far that's really appealing to me. GI Robot has like drops the word Nazi in literally every sentence that he certainly talks about. And I think one of the characters that I'm really becoming fond of is Nina. I think she's sort of the grounded one in this show, one that I think she's gonna purposefully try to get along with everybody, making a bond with GI Robot, suggesting that she's going to go ahead and kill zombies or Nazis with them, if you will. Her tagging along with the bride in here and sort of being the viewer in a sense of asking her questions, learning a little bit more about her. Reluctantly, the bride certainly pushing back, but the idea that Nina is certainly there I think definitely helps also in regards to allowing these characters to get a little bit softer and a little bit more open with themselves, if you will. So I think Nina's a really good addition to the team in here, and I really love the animation style for her. There's something about like an amphibian like inside of a helmet that just reminds me also too of like the Hellboy movies and one of his partners, with the gills and stuff, the really smart one. That's the immediate like connection that I certainly make. But a little bit tragic towards the end of episode 2 to see what happens with Nina. Like it does make me wonder if by the end of the season, who sticks around? Do any of these characters get killed off? I got to assume episode 3, maybe somebody saves Nina. I can't imagine that they kill her and the bride off at the end of 2 episodes. So I will be interested to see what situations they find themselves in and how they're certainly going to get saved in here. But Nina being sort of the sweet, stable one of the group, I find really appealing, honestly. Always fun to get some of the Weasel moments in here. Also, the fact that Sean Gunn, James Gunn's brother's doing the voice of GI Robot and Weasel in here certainly works for me. And if anything, I'm really fascinated to kind of see how some of these characters are definitely going to get adapted into live action at some point in time. But for me, the takeaway has to be the bride and Eric Frankenstein in here. The bride's origin story in episode 2. Episode 2 for me is the one that really worked for me, that really helped sort of elevate episode 1 in the sense that it felt like a much more complete and direct story that they were really trying to tell. The focus on the bride I thought was absolutely brilliant. For those of you who don't know, the bride is in fact voiced by Indira Varma, and I really hope that she gets the opportunity to play this character in live action at some point in time. Because from a voice acting perspective, I think she's done a remarkable job. Same thing with I don't feel like we hear much of Anya Shalatra, who plays Cersei in here. Hopefully we get the opportunity to see her a little bit more, but her fight sequence, Cersei and the bride at the end of season episode 2 was hard hitting, bloody, violent, and just a lot of fun. I mean, the animation style really works when it comes to the action pieces in here. But the bride just really worked for me. I love seeing her story in here. How really Frankenstein wants a bride for himself, but there's just this over eagerness, this inability to have any level of patience, this sort of heartbreak that he experiences, and the idea of her being very much repulsed and scared by him, and yet seeing how fond that she becomes of Dr. Frankenstein himself and the bond that they'll wind up growing. There is something really sweet and sentimental about it, and one that I can definitely understand. Like, I can see how she would become fond of him, considering how sweet and generous, and how much of a teacher that she certainly was to him. And they clearly, I mean, they definitely clearly bonded, if you will, and he definitely bonded with his own creation. But you got somebody in Frankenstein that's very much a psychopath, that's very much almost too smart for his own good, and uses his genius in a sense to, I don't even know if it's genius, but the fact that he constantly pushes back against somebody like Frankenstein, Dr. Frankenstein, threatening him, if you will, really just having no grasp of his own emotions, and really just allowing things to immediately hit him emotionally. And I think David Harbour does an incredible job in here as Frankenstein from a voice acting point of view. Some of the choices that he makes, whether that be the whining or the crying or his desperation to be loved by the bride, I think really does go a long way. I mean, just the way that they animate him too, some of the angles that they get him from, whether they're looking up at him with the big jaw and the crazy eyes sort of thing. There is somebody that in there that clearly wants to be loved, but is so unhinged, just all at the same time. Like, he's really threatening, you know what I'm saying? Like, he's really one of those characters that I definitely wouldn't want to get on his bad side. As Dr. Frankenstein wind up learning in here, in the sense that he has such this rage of jealousy, the idea that the bride was supposed to be him, and yet he gets the opportunity to see that Dr. Frankenstein is kind of taken the bride for himself, if you will, and it just kind of pushes him over the deep end. That inability to understand. And first, I also really enjoyed like just her birth, how Dr. Frankenstein explains the idea of like, as while you're in a womb for 9 months, you get to experience sort of a bond and a closeness to the person that's birthing you. Whereas in comparison to somebody like the bride, literally bringing her to life is like in an instantaneous moment that she's awake and alive and has no experience, no feelings, no concept of anything that's going around her, and everything is absolutely terrifying. And to me, I guess it's a little bit amazing that that Eric Frankenstein doesn't doesn't acknowledge that or remember that aspect of his life when he too was also in her shoes, and how horrific everything certain terrifying everything certainly was for him. And so he automatically just goes under the assumption that the bride should love him, should be attached to him. And even the concept of giving her flowers certainly on day one, and seeing his own her seeing his own horrific face, just sending her sort of off the deep end also, and just simply never recovering from that, almost like it just left a horrifying imprint on her, to the point to where her safe space ended up being Dr. Frankenstein. And so I really loved her origin story in here. And I also love the idea too that for Frankenstein, the monster himself, that it's just this ongoing thing, always trying to chase after her love. It is one of those things too where it's just like, I look at it in a point of like, oh, he just loves her, right? He just wants her to be hers. But there is also like a stalkerish vibe about it, like a psychopath, like following you to the ends of the earth. Sort of mentality. And clearly the bride and Frankenstein have certainly had their fights over the centuries, but it just really worked for me in regards to seeing what that relationship was like, the resentment that she clearly has towards him, the resentment that he probably has a little bit towards her, but he just really wants to kind of be loved as much as he can regardless. And he probably doesn't even realize the hurt that he's caused, the horrific thing that he did to Dr. Frankenstein in order to have her be alone. He probably doesn't recognize any of that. But I really enjoyed seeing the origin story of the bride, and really the focus that they wind up putting into episode 2. For me, it truly did work. So I'm looking forward to a lot of the rest of this season. I'm hoping Dr. Phosphorus gets an opportunity to shine. I hope we get an origin story for both Nina and GI Robot, and maybe a little bit more insight in regards to Rick Flag's senior's past a little bit, as he winds up having moments of talking about his son being choked up. Maybe we get moments of of um Rick Flag's son and him maybe at a much younger age, and seeing what that bond was truly like, and why it's so impactful, his son's death so impactful on him at this point. So if they can continue to tap into great great storytelling, great emotional arcs for these characters, while interjecting just the bonkers nature of all this, and then great humorous moments as well, we certainly might have something special. So again, really the only first 5 minutes of this, and some of the sex maybe too soon, not to say that I'm like some prude or anything, but I there is like a pacing thing, and introducing things for a particular reason. And so that's probably some of the issues that I had. But overall, I'm really enjoying this. And I think episode 2 itself really shined and helped elevated both of these episodes together. But at the end of the day, guys, these are simply just my A+ opinions. I want to know yours. What did you guys think about the first 2 episodes of Creature Commandos? What did you like? What you didn't like? What are you expecting? Or what would you certainly like to see more of? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section box below. But until next time, guys, do me a big favor. As always, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and keep it A+. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.